We're going to call the Wyandotte Creek Groundwater Sustainability Agency Board meeting to order Thursday, March 19th, 2026. Please join me in salute the flag of our nation. Ready? Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Threw my glasses down here under you. Somebody flipped something over there. It was exciting up there.
I thought it was your gavel.
Nah. Get that under control. Okay. Roll call, please.
Bruce Riston. Here. William Bynum.
Here.
Janet Goodson. Here. Kyle Daly. Here. Chair Connolly.
Here.
Thank you.
Approval of the Wyandotte Creek GSA Special Board Meeting Minutes. That was 2/26. Anyone up here have any changes?
I sure do.
Nope. Any audience participation? I mean, public comment? I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second. Gotcha.
All those in favor can say aye, right? I'm not getting, what's this roll thing here? Do I have to call roll only? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. It's only when we, is it this group? I run to so many different meetings, I can't remember.
You can do it however you want.
Oh, good. We're going to do. Okay, number 4, Sustainable Groundwater Management Grant Program Project Outcomes. 4.1, Regional Conjunctive Use Project Recap. Good morning.
Hi,
Afternoon.
everybody. Becky Fairbanks, GSA Project Manager. So today it's pretty fun. We get to come to you like 2 years afterward at the end of all of our grant projects and kind of give you, like, we're just calling them like the recap presentations. So the first up is the Regional Conjunctive Use Project. And just a reminder, this project had a few different tasks associated with it. So there's one, it's the Intrabasin Water Exchange Feasibility Analysis. You'll hear a little bit more about that. Then there's also the Surface Water Supplies Feasibility Analysis. And so both of these projects are looking at using surface water to get to different growers within the subbasin so that they can use surface water to water their crops instead of pumping groundwater. But it would be like in addition to. So like just they would still pump groundwater, but then at other times when it's available, use surface water instead. Then this project also had the pilot project associated with it in the Palermo area, like trying to divert floodwaters, but also removing stuff in the different culverts so that we wouldn't have the water like piling up and flooding out. You're going to hear another update on that also.
And then you can include the slides or no?
You can just go, yeah, that's fine. You can just stay there for now. Okay. Thanks. So we have our consultants. We have Ryan Fulton with Larry Walker Associates is here today. And then we also have Brian Thorson with GEI, who's joining us online. And then Poyam also from West Yost is joining us online. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan. We'll go next. Yeah.
Do you want me to do your slides?
I just have this one slide,
Oh.
and then it'll be
Okay.
All right. So good afternoon. I'm Brian Fulton with LWA. I just want to provide a really brief overview of the Regional Conjunctive Use Project. The idea of this project is to convey excess surface water down Wyman Ravine and Wyandotte Creek so it can be picked up by downstream groundwater pumpers for irrigation of rice and managed wetlands. There's 2 sources, one being the Palermo floodwater, so conveying the floodwater away from the Palermo area down the Wyman Ravine so it can be picked up. Second source of water is from South Feather Water and Power Agency, where they would divert water out of their Palermo Canal at Twin Spill. It would convey approximately 10 miles down the stream and then be picked up by downstream users. So both of those projects have a design element to them. West Yost was leading the work in the Palermo area, and GEI was leading the work on Twin Spill. So I'll turn it over to Poyam to talk about his work in the Palermo area and how it relates to the county's stormwater drainage plan efforts in that area. So,
Poyam, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you
Okay.
guys hear me okay? I turned my mic on.
I got this.
Maybe a little louder. We'll see.
That's
good.
Can you see the slides too?
I can see the slides. Yeah.
Okay,
Is that a little better?
a little better. Does the board hear him okay? You're a little muffled, I think.
What about that? Is that a little better?
I
No.
think- No, I think you just have to talk really loud.
All right. Loud. So next slide, please. So for the pipeline project, it was based on the alternatives that we developed for the Palermo Master Drainage Plan that we completed with the Butte County Water and Resource Conservation Department. It was funded by California Office of Emergency Services.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear you very well. Oh, yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah, our volumes are up. Are you using like a microphone on your end?
No, I'm not, but maybe if I do that, it would work better. Is that better?
Way better.
Okay, great. So it was based on the alternatives we developed as part of the master drainage plan. We worked with the Butte County Water Resources and Conservation Department to create this, and it was funded by the California Office of Emergency Services. The main goal was to reduce flooding in the area, to protect public safety, and maintain emergency access in the area during flooding events. It was based on a lot of feedback. The hope is that this report will help increase access to additional grant funding to get some of these projects completed. And one of the outcomes is I think there's some additional flow monitoring that's needed prior to final design. But we do have some alternatives that informed this regional conjunctive use project. You could go to the next slide, please. So we did quite a bit of outreach. We met with the maintenance staff for District 6. They showed us a lot of the issues that they were encountering and some of the maintenance they do. We had 3 different community meetings in the community. We had one meeting in Oroville in conjunction with the Regional Conjunctive Use Project. We also sent out mail, emails, social media announcements, and did a community survey to collect information about flooding in the area. We collected photos and videos as well. At one of the community meetings, we brought 2 large maps that we used to have the community sort of write on the maps and engage with them to tell us where did they see flooding, how frequently was that flooding, how deep was it. And we use that to inform our hydraulic model because there's no sort of gauged information for us to calibrate or validate the model to say, how accurate our model was. So this was the data that we had to do that, to see are we predicting the flooding accurately before we come up with some alternatives for how to address it. Next slide, please. So here's a layout of our model. You can see this is the area, and we created, it was a 2D hydraulic model. There was inflow coming from a HMS hydrologic model from upstream, and we created 3 different model storm events. The 100-year event was the one that we used most to develop our alternatives. Because of some of the uncertainty due to the lack of the gauge data, we kind of used the 2-year, 10-year, and 100-year events to think of a smaller, medium, and a larger scale storm. And we used that to sort of identify where are the major flooding problems occurring from, like what are the sources, and what kinds of solutions would be likely to address those sources of flooding. You can go to the next slide, please. So you can see here, these are our 100-year existing conditions results. The main area of flooding that we focused on was in the Four Corners area, so where Palermo Road and Lincoln Boulevard meet, because Palermo Road and Lincoln Boulevard are two of the main access routes through town. Also, this is some of the densest residential areas, and several businesses were being heavily impacted by the flooding at this location. And that flooding continued south down Lincoln Boulevard, all the way back to Palermo tributary. Part of the reason why we did a 2D model for the hydraulic model is because to help us be clear about where the flooding was. It wasn't clear where the water was flowing before that. What we found was on Perkins Avenue, north of North Via Avenue, it looks like there's water spilling out of the channel there that then continues down Lincoln Boulevard. Also on Palermo tributary adjacent to the school, there's a location where flooding spills out. That location, several people reported to us, community members and the district maintenance crew reported to us that they thought that was a source of flooding, and that was also sort of backed up by the model results. We used the reports from the public to sort of say, are these model results close to what people have been telling us they're seeing? Next slide, please. This is the project that we've prepared a 30% design for the Regional Conjunctive Use Project. It's slightly different from the alternatives in the master plan. It's very similar, but we did a slightly different pipeline alignment, partially to reduce the need for easements and going under the railroad tracks. But it's very similar, and the results are very similar to the results from the master plan. So this yellow line along Messina and then down Railroad Avenue, that's a pipeline diversion from Messina. And that pipeline diversion prevents the overtopping that happens. So for flows too large, for the flows that the existing channel doesn't have capacity for, that flows into that pipeline and bypasses, a large portion of the channel, that prevents the overtopping at Perkins just north of North Via Avenue that then floods down on Lincoln Boulevard. The other major component of the project is this dark blue line, which is a channel expansion from Baldwin Avenue all the way down to South Via Avenue. And that channel expansion provides additional capacity for the whole system, but also provides a place for maintenance access route within that expansion footprint. Because currently, between Palermo Road and South Via, it's only hand crews could go into the channel and do that maintenance at this point to keep the channel clear. And that expansion also prevents the overtopping just north of Palermo Road that flows over onto Lincoln Avenue. There is a potential to construct this in phases as long as all the downstream improvements are done for that current phase. So you could do only the channel expansion or only the pipeline, which, depending on funding, that might be a valuable thing to do. Okay, next slide, please. This is just a cross-section of the channel expansion. So the dashed line, the light gray dashed line, that's the channel, the existing channel from LIDAR. And so we would deepen the channel slightly, and then there's like a broad expansion within the existing setback. And it's on that sort of raised sort of flood channel setback expansion portion where the maintenance access road would go. And, it could be open to the community and be a pathway as well, but, there's other options that we didn't include. But the important part is that would allow for channel maintenance in that section of the channel that currently can't happen, or it's kind of too expensive to do. Send a whole crew in there regularly. And I think that's the last slide for me.
So I spoke about this at the last board meeting about the pilot recharge project, but just wanted to bring it back just so you can hear about it again. So the intent of this project was to immediately address some of the flooding that is occurring within Palermo. A lot of the work that Poyam was just talking about takes time. Permitting, design work, modeling, all the things that go into larger infrastructure projects. So this was just a way for us to provide some immediate relief regarding the flooding in Palermo, and for us to learn a little bit more about the permitting that it would take to provide maintenance along this channel in coordination with the CDFW. So we cleared about 1.3 miles of the drainage ditch that flows through Palermo from Messina Avenue down Railroad Avenue. It cost about $100,000. That's including the administration work, permitting, and implementation. Next slide, please. So here's just some photos.
I've got a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so, because we talked about it last time.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that I live on Lone Tree Road.
Yeah.
And we always flood when we get as much rain as we did on those last two storms.
Right.
And we didn't flood. And I'm wondering if you got any feedback from other people about what kind of, and I know this is just a small sample, pilot recharge, but I wonder if you had any other feedback from community members.
From community members, yes. We have heard positive feedback, like what you're saying here.
Yeah, like anecdotal.
Anecdotal, yeah. I've reached out to Poyam and West Coast. I don't know Poyam, not to put you on the spot, but do you have maybe anything from your modeling effort that you could maybe layer in there, like what the benefits of this clearing?
It's difficult. It's difficult to address with the model that we have now because we don't have it calibrated. So, given the storm event that came through, it's hard for me to say, oh, I could tell, run that storm event through the model and compare it to, some previous storm event. It's a little difficult because it's not calibrated. But we could do that. We could take this last storm event and run it through the model and see what it does. One thing that we did notice with the modeling is when the additional there's more capacity going through town, it does slightly change the flood hydrograph on Wyman Ravine, and it changed it in a way that I didn't expect, which is it reduced the actual peak on Wyman Ravine. So further down on Lone Tree Road, it may have reduced the peak because the flows were moving through Palermo faster. It's a little counterintuitive, but that was a surprising effect that we saw in the modeling that we did. I don't know if that addresses the question at all.
I guess from a layman's point of view, what you're saying is without all the debris there, the water didn't dam up and then let go all at once. It could flow through in a more steady manner, so therefore we didn't have higher peak flows later. And it's evident because we didn't have, from the constituents I've talked to, they didn't have the localized flooding, and that's I just came up with that listening to you. It must have been the debris were damming it up, then it would let it go, and then it would hit so quick it would flood in a debris laden stream bed down farther. So it did really help. I mean, just from talking to people. Does that kind of explain it in layman's terms?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a part of it is also that it's just slow. It's just slower flow prior to this maintenance being done. The flow was just a lot slower through town, especially if there's flooding happening and the flow's going overland. It's just a lot slower than if the channel's cleared out and it's all going through the channel. And the timing of when those peak flows happen in Wyman Ravine versus the timing of what comes through Palermo, it changes that timing, and I think it has the potential to reduce the peak at Lone Tree. even way downstream.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering if the county maintenance crews would notice, because they didn't have to close off the road like they normally have to close off the road.
Okay,
And, it would save manpower and that sort of thing, so. Anyway, I was just wondering if you got enough feedback and information to help out with future planning, so. That was it.
Yeah, thanks. So this slide shows before, during, and after photos of the area along Baldwin Avenue. You can see there's some pictures of them loading up the debris in the dump truck there. And then similarly, before, during, and after photos of the removal along Railroad Avenue. Yep. All right, is there any questions on the Palermo project? Otherwise, I think we'll shift gears to the Twin Spill project.
Ryan, is that the proposed channel expansion, is that the same stretch that was recently, or that was cleared in that pilot project?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so seems like if we saw that kind of a benefit off of just cleaning out the debris, maybe a channel expansion would kind of be the low-hanging fruit for this project. Maybe?
Yeah, that'd be like the next phase, if you want to look at it that way.
Are there any challenges to actually putting, it's quite a few projects into practice across the basin?
They're different challenges for different projects.
Okay, each one has its own specificity.
Each one has its own, yeah. But I mean, the permitting, I was really surprised by how streamlined the permitting process was for this clearing project in Palermo. We worked with Butte County's routine maintenance agreement, and that really helped streamline things. But as far as larger infrastructure and changes to the current system, that would be a different process. It wouldn't really qualify for maintenance at that point. So it'd be more permitting work.
I'll just add that the drainage master plan is in draft form. I'm actually reviewing it now to get back to POYAM in any additional comments. And then I do envision bringing it to the Board of Supervisors for their review and input in the next couple of months. So hopefully we'll have a draft available, just so you know that that's moving forward through the board.
Okay. And I just have one other question. Looking at the pilot recharge project. For the dry years, how sure are we that these surface water and recharge ideas would still work during extensive drought periods?
Yeah. So the next project that we're talking about, that South Feather is a partner on, they have pretty good surface water, and so even in the drought years, they have water available. So that will kind of get us through those dry years.
Okay.
And the Palermo project, it's more intended where it's flooding, but there still may be some benefit from that project as well.
Thank you. That helps.
So Brian's up next.
Yep, Brian's up
Okay.
next.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that's better. So I've got the headphones on, so I'm going to talk about the Twin Spill Phase 1. I was up there about a year ago, and we talked about, initially we looked at 3 different areas and decided to focus in on the Palermo area for these recharge projects. If you look at the map on the right, why following that meeting we met with Rafe Mosley of the South Feather, and I picked 3 different projects to look at. One was the Twin Spill, which we're going to talk about today. We also looked at Ioletta Spill and Palermo Pipeline Project. We've got a our report on task 2 basically goes through those 2 projects, has estimated costs for those projects and estimated dollars per acre foot based on a 50-year life of the projects. And Twin Spill came out on top for that, and also has the added advantage of being a simpler project for South Feather to operate and participate in. So basically, we've got the schematic on the left, and if we look at the map, why the project comes down, the Palermo Canal comes out of Oroville Dam, wraps around the hill, and then Twin Spill is about 5 miles downstream from Oroville Dam, and we can put water into a tributary of Wyman Ravine. It comes down about 10 miles down to this lift pump where it can be lifted out and used to irrigate rice. And there's a grower that we've talked to there who's interested in doing that. I'll go to the next slide. So this is just a couple pictures showing a Palermo Canal comes in, does a 180 in Wyman Ravine. In the wintertime, why that's in the ravine, there's some water that comes in, and then this is the spill structure on the left. It's a 2-bay structure. The new structure will be a 2-bay structure, but instead of just grade boards, it'll have a gate in one of the bays that will provide measurement and be able to open and allow allow water to go into Wyman Ravine from Palermo Canal during the irrigation season. So you want to go to the next slide. So just the main kind of specifics on Twin Spill. The objective is to supply surface water in lieu of groundwater to approximately 300 acres of irrigated rice. The water source is the Palermo Canal. The conveyance is from Palermo Canal to Twin Spill to Wyman Ravine and then to the rice field. Estimate we're going to get in lieu recharge of about 900 acre feet and seepage in Wyman Ravine of 300 acre feet. I note these benefits could shift. We expect the total benefit of about 1,200 acre feet to stay the same, but depending on the seepage in Wyman Ravine, as we get more information about that from the stream gauges that were recently put in, how much is in lieu versus how much is seepage, and both are benefits to the groundwater in the subbasin. So the total is expected to stay about the same, but how much is in each category could shift a little bit. And then a benefit that South Feather gets is this would also provide some improved control of the flow in the Palermo Canal, as if we would put a flow control gate in downstream of Twin Spill, they would be able to dial in the flow for their demand downstream. The capital cost for the project at a 10% conceptual level was about $1.8 million. We're just finishing up a 30% design, and we were able to get some quotes on the gates and had a survey done that provided additional information. It looks like the capital cost at the 30% design level is coming in closer to $1 million compared to the 1.8. And with the 1.8 costs, we estimated about $58 per acre foot over a 50-year project life. And just to be conservative, we assumed that there'd only be water available in 7 out of 10 years. So in those dry years, you might not get water. But if you can get water in the wet years and the wetter years, why that's still very beneficial, because you're putting it in storage essentially in the groundwater system. So next slide, please.
I think you're also missing a recharge at the rice field. That's not clay soil there. That's cobble underneath, so it's gonna leak a lot. So you're gonna get recharge benefit there.
Yeah. So what he's taken is offsetting his pumping.
Right.
So that basically, when we say in lieu recharge, why that should, I think, be about the same there. I mean, what we have for in lieu is how much water we think he's going to get and be able to put on that rice field in. So some of that's going to be ET, some of that's going to be recharge there. So then we went ahead and did a proof of concept from October 28th through November 10th. So we had at Orville Dam, the measurement was about 14.5 cubic feet per second. At Twin Spill, why we were able to get 5 miles downstream, the flow was measured at 12.8 CFS per second. We put about just a little over 10 CFS through Twin Spill. And then we had measurements, it's a little smaller on this, it's hard to see, but we had at Lower Wyandotte Road, we're putting in a stream gauge as part of the project, and that measured 8 CFS, so we basically lost 2 CFS in that reach a couple miles between Twin Spill and Lower Wyandotte Road. Lost a little bit more down to Lone Tree Road. And then our first provisional estimate was about 2.2 CFS loss in that reach. And now when we look at the next reach, if we go to the next slide, when we look at between SG5 and SG6, we think we're going to lose 2 to 3 CFS there again. So we think we're going to be around between 4 and 5 total CFS loss. I see need to work on my math a little bit there, but we get the slide corrected. I got probably fat fingers is the problem, but anyway, we're going to continue to refine the seepage. I mean, we'll have more data, so you can refine the seepage as the project moves forward, because the stream gauge data, when we look at that, we'll be able to get a better estimate of what the loss is here. Right now, it's just very limited information going into that. So let me go to the next slide. So the participating parties in this water, we've got the Wyandotte Creek GSA, we've got South Feather Water and Power Agency providing the water, and then a private landowner that would take that water for in lieu recharge. So if we go to the next slide, benefits is improves basin sustainability, increase in regional groundwater levels, stores the water in the groundwater for future use. Then the cost is basically the infrastructure needed to get the water to that recharge area, and then a cost of water to South Feather, their cost of delivery of that water. So let's go to the next slide. We looked at different water exchange agreements. Now South Feather has a surplus water use agreement that is a good kind of framework for this. But here it's, you can look at this. We just try to look at the items, like what benefits there are to each different entity, what the costs are, what the role would be of that entity, their responsibility, and how they would fit into that agreement. So like the role of the GSA would be basically as a facilitator and to track additional recharge from the seepage and from the reduced pumping, and that would plug into the annual report. South Feather would supply the water through Twin Spill and operate the Palermo Canal down to Twin Spill. Then the local water user would be responsible for pumping the water out of that delivery point and would secure any approvals that he needed to do that at that point. So it's just an example of some of the things you could think of with respect to the water exchange agreement. Then I think we can go to the next slide. And the next steps, we're finishing up just finished a draft report of the task 2 on this. We're also finishing up a 30% design. We have design drawings we've received comments on. We're just revising those. Future past this grant agreement would be to continue to develop the water exchange or surplus sale agreement with South Feather. And then I think this is a good project for future grant funding. It's got clear recharge benefits for the sub-basin and a good, secure, solid source of water. So I think that's it. Any questions?
I have one. I think it's pretty obvious, though. If there's a need, then if this works out, they could supply to capacity of the canal in Wyman. They could supply more water to other people along Wyman's ravine, because there's quite a bit of opportunity from there down to put in either trees or flooded pasture or irrigated pasture too. So I guess I answered my own question. I mean, if we build it, there's going to be. I mean, it's a good thing. I think it's win-win. That's what I think.
So, so let me just, one thing I would say with that is in the report, why we talk about 2 phases for Twin Spill. What I just described was the first phase, which they operate the canal using with the capacity that it currently has and what they're used to. A second phase would potentially, still needs to be more investigated, add shotcrete at high loss areas of that canal and allow them to increase the capacity of that canal, and then they could put more water down Wyman Ravine. So that would be a potential phase 2 to this that would provide the more water for what you just described. So that's detailed more in the report. So,
any questions or any public comment on this matter? Is there electronic comment at all today? Nobody online?
I have a statement.
Come on up,
I need to identify myself.
if you care to.
My name is George Snodgrass. Lived here for many, many years. Worked 25 years with the road maintenance department in that area. And I think the problem with the drainage is the different elevations that go back 100 years. There's no place for the water to go. So you're going to have to do some major pipes, culvert pipes, redirecting. Otherwise, it's all for naught. And nothing against the current district that works that area, but they're not doing any maintenance and drainage at all right now, currently. You can go out and drive around and check it out. So am I right in understanding here, they're going to put in 1.3 miles of ditch from, Irwin to Messina to Irwin?
I think they're going to
going north to south? We're at the cost of $14 million?
They're going to improve the drainage. They're not going to put a pipe there. There's a pipe.
Improve the drainage?
Yeah, clean the ditch out, make it accessible.
How many times a year?
Well, once they get it cleaned out, it'll be much easier to maintain. Right now, what's wrong right now, living with this for 21 years, is that a lot of that's on private land. We don't have access to it.
Right.
And nobody maintains it. There's no irrigation district.
And that's where you don't have any flow.
So we're going to try to make it to where the county can maintain that ditch and keep the area from flooding.
Okay, my next question is, I live up here on the cliff above the river, north side of the river, Oro View, and if I'm not mistaken, there's already a charge on my property taxes for this project?
Not this project. There's a...
Well, it was under the Wyandotte Creek irrigation or sustainability.
So you're late to the game. Can I have staff call you and explain Sigma? It was forced upon us by the state.
I understand that.
We have to pay for it one way or another. And yeah, you're going to pay part of it. Yeah. The honest answer.
And what is there's a base rate of $20?
We're going to discuss that further in the meeting, and it'd probably be more appropriate for you to come up and question it after we.
Well, I saw the gavel coming down. I thought we were ending things.
No. That's not the end of the meeting. That's this item.
All right.
And look, the most uncomfortable thing in the world is when the state tells us we have to do something.
Oh, I understand completely. Because it would be 5 times the amount, conceivably. All right. Well,
look, there's a whole lot to this, and afterwards, no matter how it goes, get with us and we'll give you more background.
Because I've only got one flyer in the mail.
Right. It would take us a couple
I'm here
hours.
today with questions because it's my first opportunity.
Right. I appreciate you being here, though.
Mm-hmm. Thank
Because
you.
if there was like 20 of you people here,
Well, 2 o'clock on a Thursday, and I unfortunately retired myself, but so I'm trying to get all my friends and neighbors involved.
okay.
I recognize this guy. He's a neighbor. So, yeah, all right then. I'll be here.
Yeah, we're going to explain how we're going to try to charge people. And how many years have we been at this?
A while.
About 3 years? Yeah.
At least.
Okay.
Well, I remember
Well-
when it first came about.
All right. Thanks for being here. I know your dad worked at the railroad.
That was my uncle.
Oh, your uncle. Yeah.
Yep.
George.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions about this project or this report? I'll close public comment on this part of the meeting. Let's move on.
And this is on the data gap project. So just a reminder, this had like 2 main overall tasks. So one is to install monitoring equipment and new monitoring wells and stream gauges throughout the subbasin. And that's what we're going to bring you that update today, just to kind of let you know where we are. And like we just have like a little less than 2 weeks to finish this project out. And the other main task is what we shared with you last month, updating the GSP, the groundwater sustainability plan, periodic evaluation, and plan amendments. Just as a reminder, our plan is to have by March 31st, we're going to have a working draft published online for people to kind of review. But we're going to continue to collect data throughout 2026. And then by fall of 2026, that's when we're actually going to finalize the drafts and post it for like the actual official public comment period, and then bring that all to you after that. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryan again with Larry Walker Associates.
Hi again. So Ryan Fulton with LWA. Just want to provide a brief update on the monitoring network enhancements. This work was being funded by DWR, and as Becky was saying, the work needs to be complete by March 31st. So back in the fall of 2024, the board approved monitoring network enhancements across the subbasin. It consisted of 15 shallow wells, 3 multi-completion wells, and 5 new stream gauges. The 5 stream gauges, they're going in as planned, so really no update there other than they're going in and the data is going to be collected or is being collected. Regarding the new wells, however, we're not able to get them all in due to schedule and budget constraints that occurred. So go ahead and go to the next slide here. Sorry, one. Yep, this one right here. So we went through a process to prioritize those sites that you approved in the fall to provide some direction to the drillers as they've started drilling. They started, last Monday, I believe. And so we removed 2 multi-completion wells. That's on the map, they're the 2 X's. That the well in the north, that with the X, that one actually is going to be a shallow well to reduce the cost. But I just got an update today actually on that one is the driller ran into some cobble up there, so they partially drilled it and moved to the next one. And so I might have to come back to that one. But anyways, we went through the process and we prioritized all the other shallow wells. We wanted to prioritize wells where there were data gaps across the subbasin, especially near streams and potential groundwater-dependent ecosystems. And then we also wanted to prioritize new wells near the project and management actions that we just talked about. So the driller has started on the high-priority wells. Next slide, please.
We're fighting over him.
So this is the list of the shallow wells as they were prioritized. S10, which is on the south side of the subbasin near Lower Honcut Road. That well is completed now. They finished it yesterday. They started on S16, but as I mentioned, they decided to stop drilling on that one. Their drill rig was running into some issues with the cobble. And they moved on to S7, and I believe that they're starting on that today or tomorrow. and they'll just continue drilling until the 31st. We're hopeful we can at least get 4 or 5 wells in before the end of the grant. But we'll do the best we can. Any specific questions on this? This was generally the update for you.
So was
I have
the,
a,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Go.
Just curious, how many gaps have we covered, and how many need more work?
Yeah. So of the multi-completion wells, we're going to drill one of the 3 locations. Of the 15 or 16 shallow wells, we're going to get about 4 of them in. And,
Okay.
we're drilling the ones where there are the biggest data gaps, where we'll expect to have the most benefit. But there will still be other wells that won't be drilled. And the GSA, we have designs and specs for them now, so we could potentially seek additional grant funding to drill them. But they just won't be drilled under this grant, unfortunately.
Okay, all right, thank you for clarification.
So was the only completion well the one that was that last year or 2 years ago on Lone Tree? Is that the only one that was?
Oh, so that's in addition to this work. So that was funded through a separate, the technical support services that DWR has. That was, that's collecting data. We installed another multi-completion well. Let me go back to slide. It's the second slide. It's that one has it on there. It's the pink hexagon, kind of southern, kind of central portion of the subbasin. It's in that proximity, is where the new well that they just completed.
The new one. Okay.
They it should be done within the next couple days, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how deep are the shallow wells?
Shallow wells, they vary a little bit, but roughly 100 feet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any public comment on this matter? Which was a monitoring well installation and project recap. We're going to move on then. We'll close public comment, move on to the fee study. Presentation highlighting key components contained in the fee study report will be discussed, as well as a review of the fee adoption schedule. This agenda item provides the opportunity for the board to comment on a draft report. No action is sought on the fee report. This is where we're going to take public comment. And sir, for your benefit, we did have a fee. We spent a year discussing fees and had a workable fee structure, but a couple other basins near us derailed it all, so here we are. We're going to do it a different way, I guess. Just to let you know, there's a long, ugly background to fees, because nobody likes them, right? So there you go.
All right.
Segue into the new attempt at fees.
So Catherine is on the line.
And somebody ought to explain a little bit why we're collecting the fees, recap it, because he's new here. He's the public.
Right. I think Catherine has a little bit about the background on the history of the fees, right,
Okay.
Catherine? Or should I cover it? I think it's on your slide deck.
I'm actually trying to remember.
Okay. Well, I'll just, she does talk about the reasons for the new fee,
think
but
I
I will say, so the original fee was for a Sigma compliance. So the GSA, or the Groundwater Sustainability Agency, is required by the state as an entity to manage groundwater sustainably. As part of that, we passed a fee, this board passed a fee for administration of the GSA. And there are requirements that we have to comply with annually, as well as every 5 years. So we have to manage the Wyandotte Creek subbasin for about 20 years to meet the requirements of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, and for 30 years beyond that. So the fee is for the administration of the Groundwater Sustainability Agency. And so in order for us to be able to meet all of the requirements of the state. So things like the project work that we've been discussing isn't part of that fee. It's for the administration of that fee. And the work that has been done for the last couple of years on some of these projects that you've just heard about came from grant funding. And this board's goal is to keep fees as low as possible, and then projects like the installation of wells or regional conjunctive use projects would be things that we would pursue grant funding for. So I hope that answers.
Are the fees going for the board, for the Wyandotte Creek?
The fees will be for management of the GSA. So there is a program manager that administers the GSA, bringing things to this board, pursuing grant funding, and having some staff available for doing that. I will say that the cost of the GSA program manager, she's not here today, is split with another GSA. So her costs are kept lower because there's another GSA in a different subbasin that helps share in the cost of her.
Right. So how many employees are we talking total that are with the Wyandotte Creek organization?
The Wyandotte Creek GSA doesn't have any specific employees. What the GSA has done is has a cost share agreement with another subbasin, and the staff, that would be someone like Becky, our GSA program manager, is actually housed in the Butte County Department of Water and Resource Conservation. That's to help keep costs down for the GSA. So, and then the fees fund that position. Grant money funds Becky's position. So there's not a full-time staff person.
Right.
Yeah, she's about 30% of her time is spent on the GSA. Where the fees also cover funds, because you'll see the budget, which I forget what the total budget is, are things for technical consultants to do annual reports that are required to be submitted to the state. Every 5 years, we have to do a periodic evaluation of the groundwater sustainability plan. We're in that process now, preparing that periodic evaluation. As part of this periodic evaluation, we are also doing some GSP, the plan amendments, modifying the plan based on recommendations from the Department of Water Resources, the state, to make that plan so it continues to be in compliance and an approved plan from the state. So that's what a lot of that funding is for, and then regular monitoring, ongoing monitoring, and technical assistance. So there's not a full-time staff person for this, and this board does not receive any kind of stipend for their time.
Thank you.
But thank you for your service. So hopefully that'll answer some, and then hopefully Catherine will be able to answer some other questions, and then.
So my main question is, I'm up here on TID water, and a little slice of heaven, I love it. And this, what I'm hearing, is mainly concerning farmers down Palermo area, the rice farmers.
Not quite true, sir. Let me back up. In many parts of the state, they've mismanaged groundwater, horror stories, telephone pole links. So the state, the sledgehammer says, everybody's going to form GSAs, everybody's going to be required to take care of their groundwater. And part of where you get your water is from groundwater. That's why you're involved. If we didn't do this, if we didn't form a GSA and do this, the state says, we'll come do it. Well, that's the worst option. So we'll get into how it's divided up here on her report. And the projects you're hearing about are low-hanging fruit that we can use grant money to do. And there is a benefit for the GSA in general, not for you in particular. Sorry we have to charge you anything, but we have to charge everybody something. And so the more input we have, if I think I see that you care, the more you learn, the more you'll be able to help us, okay? So we'll just move on. And we're willing to talk to you offline, not in a formal setting. You're willing to come to my office. You can talk to Cammie. You can talk to the lady that's not here that runs the GSA too. Because education is power. And I want you to help us.
Any way I can.
All right, there we go. Let's move on.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Turn it over to Catherine. Thanks.
Thank you, Cammie. Just first of all, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So today I'm going to go through a review of the fee report I know as a board you've seen a lot of this already. It sounds like you do have some members of the public, so I'll explain things as I go along. Okay. I actually just want to start right out the bat with the timeline because as you see on the agenda, you are being asked today to move forward in this process and hold a public hearing in May. So we are here in March. You have the draft report in front of you. We are holding a webinar open to the public on March 24th, and details about that is posted onto the GSA's website. At the April 16th board meeting, we will have a final report for you. And then the intent is to move forward, and at your May 21st board meeting, you would hold the public hearing, consider adoption of the fee resolution that's presented to you. And from then on, for the next couple of months, there will be some refinement of the database, working with the county, ensuring that they're ready to receive this new tax roll, and then it goes on to the tax roll for the following year. Okay, so I did have a slide here about the reasons for this new fee structure. So the old fee, the one that you currently have in place, does do to some extent, but doesn't reflect the land use and the groundwater usage by the different types of users within the subbasin. And also with this fee, the goal was to be able to provide greater flexibility to respond to SGMA regulation by having annual review of the fee. And spreading the cost amongst all of the beneficiaries. Currently, the fee is not charged to the non-taxable properties, like the state, for example, or school districts or cities. So the fees will continue to be collected with property taxes as they are with your current fee, but in addition, there will be non-taxable properties and they will be invoiced directly. I've got the wrong sorry, I put the wrong GSA on there. Be invoiced directly by the Wyandotte Creek GSA. So the key differences between the current and the new fee structures is that currently only the taxable parcels are charged. Under the new structure, all federal parcels will be charged. Under your current structure, agricultural parcels pay for their entire acreage. Under the new structure, the agricultural parcels will pay only for their cropped and or managed wetlands acreage. Under the current structure, the grazing lands pay for their entire acreage of the parcel. Under the new structure, they will only pay the Part 1 fee, which I will explain. So here's a comparison of the current and the new fee structures. On the left, the table shows the current fee structure. And it shows that there's different parcel categories: non-irrigated, irrigated with surface water, and irrigated with groundwater. There is a max fee. So on that right-hand column, for example, non-irrigated, it shows the max fee at $1.38. That's per acre per year. Now, if the fee level were to be, if this fee structure were to be continued to raise the fee level amount that's been identified by staff and the ad hoc committee at $470,000 for the year, that fee would need to be increased to $1.90 per acre. Or for the irrigated surface water, instead of $8.98, it would have to be increased to $17.14. So even if you kept your current fee structure, you would have to adopt a much higher fees. Under the new fee structure, there's a Part 1, Part 2 structure. There's a Part 1 fee that's paid by every parcel in the subbasin. The only parcels that are exempt from paying are those that are owned by the federal government. There are also some unusable parcels. These are parcels that have not been processed yet by the assessor, or they're in some state of change in their system, and they have not provided a taxability code for it, and we are unable to determine what the fee should be for the parcels. So in any given year, you might have, it's literally just a handful of parcels that just may not be able to charge the fee to. And then the Part 2 fees, there's 3 groups. The first group is the agricultural users. We distinguish between 2 different types of agricultural users based on the water that they're using. The first group is, the first grouping in Group 1 is the South Feather Water and Power Authority and Feather River direct diversion agricultural users. So there are 2 agricultural users that pull directly from the Feather River. And then the South Feather Water and Power Agency customers, they are taking water from the Palermo Canal. They have a lower calculated fee than all the other agricultural users. They are bringing water resources into the subbasin, helping to elevate the groundwater level, and because those water sources help with the water balance, that total amount of groundwater in the aquifer, that reduces the amount of Part 2 costs that are being generated, because these Part 2 costs are being generated by the need to do studies, to perform investigations, to gather more data, to analyze how to provide for long-term sustainability of the groundwater resource. In the Group 2, that's all the domestic users of water in the subbasin. There are 3 groupings within that group. The first is the South Feather Water Power Agency users. They would not have a Group 2 fee, again for the same reasoning. There is a sort of an outside surface water that's coming into the basin and improving the subbasin's groundwater. The Cal Water Oroville and the Thermalito Water and Sewer District users, they do use some surface water and they use some groundwater. It's a little in comparison. The groundwater is small compared with the surface water amount. So you can see that they have a lower fee than all the other domestic users who are using primarily and exclusively groundwater. And there's a third group which we identify, but there is 0 fee associated with them, is the grazing and the vacant properties. So I want to walk through the fee calculation methodology. The first is to determine what the costs are, what's going to be funded, and what's in Part 1 and what's in Part 2. And I do talk a little bit more about this. Part 1 is to ensure that there is a GSA that's functioning. It keeps the local control of groundwater management within the county at the GSA. And Part 2 costs, those are costs that are being generated by the need to find solutions and conduct studies to look into how to ensure that long-term groundwater sustainability. The second step in this fee calculation methodology is determining the Part 1 and the Part 2 fee units. So Part 1 fee units are the number of parcels. Every parcel within the subbasin, unless it is owned by the federal government, would pay the Part 1 fee. The Part 2 fee units are the number of cropped acres, the number of managed wetland acres, and the number of developed parcels, and I will explain what that means exactly. In the report, there is a final adjustment factor of 5% for those Part 1 fee units and 10% for the Part 2 fee units. Those may be reduced between now and the write-up of the final report. We are waiting for some updated South Feather Water and Power Agency data. So we want to make sure we have the most recent reliable data for the report. And when we receive that update, there's a possibility that we might be able to reduce those factors. They won't go down to 0% because we need to also allow for the fact that between May and August, when the fees go onto the tax roll, there will be some adjustments in the parcel database. So we'll still maintain some final adjustment factor. And then the third is very simple. You divide the total costs in each part by the fee units. So I said I would talk a little bit more about these Part 1 and Part 2 costs. The ad hoc committee convened after the last board meeting where we talked about if there was any adjustments that needed to be made to that fee level, which staff had identified at $470,000. So the ad hoc committee provided confirmation that that's an appropriate, reasonable level for the activities that will be conducted in fiscal year 27. And then in the financial model, we're looking out 5 years. We don't want to set a fee now that's going to have to jump up in a future year. We want to set a fee now that would see just a gradual increase, something that moves with inflation and that's not a big surprise to the fee payers. So in the model, the fees are estimated to increase 2.5% a year. The costs are estimated to increase 3.25% each year. So that's accounting for inflation. And the reason why those two are a little bit different is that you're always chasing the costs. You know, you're always a year behind. If you look back on a cost index, you're always going to be a little bit behind. The goal, and this is based on Government Financial Officers Association guidelines, is to have a minimum reserve of at least 3 months of operating expenses. So if we start the fee level at $470,000 and increase that at 5.5% a year, and if we assume the costs are going a little faster than that at 3.25% each year, then over the next 5-year horizon, we are modeling and projecting that the total ending cash balance will remain above that minimum reserve level, so that you would maintain some funds for any costs that perhaps you hadn't anticipated. You'd have a little bit in reserve. And the Part 1 portion of those costs is estimated at about $244,000, and the Part 2 at about $225,000. So I know I sort of covered this a little bit earlier. I just want to explain again that the Part 1 costs, this pays for sort of the bare bones. This is the skeleton with a little meat. It's governance costs, it's administration costs, staffing, as Cami said, it's a portion of the program manager's time. And it pays for legal expenses and audits and fee consultants. And so this proposed fee structure, all parcels pay for that because everybody receives that same level of benefit. For the Part 2 costs, these are funding, as I said, those investigative types of activities. These are being driven by what is in the GSP. And those costs are being split between the two primary groups, users of groundwater within the subbasins. So historical data shows us that that's 95% agricultural use and 5% domestic use. So I have a couple of slides here, just give a little bit more depth into the services provided by each of these parts of the fee. As I said, those administrative costs to keep the agency running, board of directors, then meetings, also public oversight. So ensuring that there's stakeholder engagement as well, ensuring that items of public interest are posted to the website, those types of costs. And then just keeping the GSA in existence and keeping it recognized by the state of California and keeping local control. As I've said, the Part 1 fee will apply to all parcels unless it's exempt or it's unusable. And the Part 1 fee calculation is shown. We have the total amount of the Part 1 fee to be collected, the number of fee-paying parcels. There is an adjustment factor, and the total fee then is $20.50 for the year for each parcel. The Part 2 fee will fund Sigma monitoring and reporting. That includes things like the annual reports, which you've talked about, periodic evaluations, and ongoing data collection for groundwater extraction. The groundwater monitoring and data management, this is tracking the extractions, looking at the groundwater conditions and sustainability trends. In GSP implementation, so as I said, these are activities that have been identified in the GSP and are now being conducted. And finally, more stakeholder engagement and outreach, ensuring that the public is being educated on what's being conducted that is of benefit to them. So the Part 2 fees, this is now reflecting groundwater use patterns. We have agriculture and managed wetlands. They would pay the fee, the same fee per acre. So it doesn't matter if you are growing rice or you are producing almonds, if you have trees. Every different type of crop is going to pay the same fee. And if you have a managed wetland acre, that would pay the same fee as a cropped acre. The domestic parcels would pay on a developed parcel basis. So we use a mapping tool, it's a GIS mapping tool, and we import data from DWR. We import data from the assessor. We also import FEMA data. And so we can identify where all the buildings are. So the parcels that are using drinking water, we can identify them as domestic parcels. As I explained perhaps a little quickly earlier, there is a lower Part 2 fee for the certain parcels, and those are ones that are being served with surface water. That might be coming from the South Feather Water Power Authority. It might be Cal Water Oroville, Thermalito Water and Sewer District, and those direct diverters from the Feather River. They're helping to improve groundwater storage in the sub-basin. Did just want to note that this fee structure does require some coordination with the South Feather Water Power Authority. So they are aware. So yes, first of all, they are providing us some updated data right now, but then going forward every year, and we have requested every June, that they would provide a list of parcels within the GSA's boundary that receives their irrigation water and the parcels that are connected to their domestic water system. We only need the assessor parcel number from them. We are not asking for any confidential data. It's strictly what the APN assessor parcel number is. Definitions. Definitions are critical. So the cropped acres, that includes any land that's been identified by DWR. They publish a crop mapping layer. It's accessible to anybody, and it will identify if a crop is either being grown there now or has been grown there in the past. The managed wetlands, this is land identified using a particular data set from the Department of Fish and Game, or it should be Fish and Wildlife, I believe now. It's called the BIOS data set, and it shows us where those wetland acres are, but to ensure that it's a managed wetland acre, we also overlay that with data on wetlands conservation easements. So if there is a wetland that's in a wetlands conservation easement, it is a managed wetland. And that means that it's being managed much like it was when it was probably in rice production. So water is applied to the land, much like it's applied to cropped acreage. And then the domestic parcels, as I said, we're using this mapping tool. We're identifying where these buildings and structures are. We use assessor and FEMA data to kind of cross-check on each other. Occasionally we'll get a hole in the assessor's data and we're not sure, and occasionally we'll have a hole in the FEMA data. So we like to use both of those data sets. don't want to go too much into this. It's really just a table to show you what types of cropped acres are there. So it's everything from olives and avocados to vineyards, rice, etc. But I should point out too, it does include golf courses. And I did also point out that it does include idle land. So sometimes there's a field that's in a rotation. Perhaps it's fallow for a short amount of time, but sometimes there's also fields that have been idle for some more lengthy time period. But they could come back into production. They have been irrigated in the past, and they have the potential for irrigating again. I mentioned that there would be a lower fee for those users of Feather River surface water, and that lower fee is based on data that we obtained from South Feather Water Power Agency and from the state's database on diversions of surface water. So when we looked at the surface water that's being used in this box, so South Feather and these direct diversions, that makes up about 15% of the total water use by agricultural users. So we used that data to determine the fee between those agricultural parcels that don't receive Feather River surface water and those that do. Do want to point out on this slide that there's no credit, there's no parcels that are using some surface water from Wyman Ravine, from Wyandotte Creek, or from Honker Creek, and perhaps some other riparian sources. They would not have a lower fee. The reason for that is that those particular surface water sources, they are interconnected with the groundwater within the subbasin. So there are stretches of these surface water sources that they gain, they lose in certain reaches, and we can't determine with accuracy for the fee study exactly which water source is being used. So this lower fee only applies to those parcels that are receiving Feather River surface water. And the same logic applies for the domestic users as well. We have used actual pumping data from Cal Water Oroville, actual pumping data from Thermalito Water and Sewer District, and we have South Feather's data as well. So for their fee, those agencies, they get a credit and they pay less. I'm going to go back to that calculation, so you'll see that. So here's the Part 2 fee calculation for the agricultural users. As I mentioned, we do have an adjustment factor in here that might change a little bit in the next month when we get South Feather's data. So those folks that are using the surface water from the Feather River, they're paying at 85% of all the other agricultural users. And again, just to point out, this is just on the field acreage or the managed wetlands acreage, not the entire parcel. And for the domestic users, because South Feather, they're using the Feather River water exclusively to serve them, they would not pay a domestic Part 2 fee. The Cal Water Oroville and Thermalito users would pay at 25% of what all other domestic users pay. As I mentioned, these fees that are calculated and presented to you today and that are in the draft fee report, these are still draft and they could be adjusted a little bit. But that table summarizes all of the fees. And then I wanted to provide some examples of how the fee calculation works. So if we have a domestic user, their parcel size is 2 acres. It doesn't matter what their parcel size is anymore under this new fee structure. Under the old fee structure, they would be charged by their parcel size. Now they're being charged $20.50 for the parcel, as is every type of user of water within the subbasin. The Part 2 fee is per developed parcel. So if you have your own private well, that's a groundwater use, that's $3.76 for the parcel. So the total fee is $24.26. If the provider is South Feather, then the Part 1 fee is incurred, but there's zero Part 2 fee. So it's a little lower. The total fee is a little low. If a parcel was served by, sorry, that should say Cal Water Oroville, not the City of Oroville. I apologize for that. $20.50 for the Part 1 fee and 94 cents for the Part 2 fee. So you can see it's just a little difference here depending on who the water provider is, or if indeed it's your own well. For agriculture, we have an example of 100 acres of agriculture, and these two examples really just to show that it could be managed wetlands or it could be cropped acres. It's the same fee. And then there's an example of an agricultural parcel that is served by South Feather. So that's a lower fee. And then wanted to demonstrate that it is possible that some parcels have both agricultural and domestic uses of water at their parcels. So for example, you might have a primarily agricultural parcel with a home or a ranch on it, and that parcel would pay both the cropped acreage fee and the developed parcel fee. And the final example assumes 100 acres of rangeland, and this is really to illustrate that that parcel will only pay the Part 1 fee. I have a little bit of a comparison here between what would be paid under the new fee structure versus what the fee would be under the current fee structure. And I think the couple of things to point out here. The first one is that the domestic users will be charged more under the new fee structure. I think quite a few agricultural folks will see a significant decrease in their fee. Folks who have managed wetlands are not currently paying at this level that other agriculture is, so there would be an increased fee for managed wetland parcels. Parcels served by South Feather, that fee would decrease, and then rangeland would decrease. Finally, the board has the ability to adjust the fee every year. They will review the fee every year, and they will look at the ability to change the fee based on what's written in the fee resolution. So legal counsel will be preparing a fee resolution for your consideration, and it will include the potential to increase the fee each year, and this could be automatically tied to an index. You might increase it by a set percentage number. You might put a cap onto that potential for increase. But then if you need more than what a percentage increase at that cap that you set, if you need to raise the fees greater than that, that you would you would ask for greater analysis, and you would determine then what that fee level needs to be.
I have a question.
With more discussion. Yes.
So why might the GSA raise the fees beyond the inflation? Would it have to do with, new guidelines handed down by the state?
Precisely, yes. I think it's unlikely that the Part 1 fee will change substantially enough to be affected by more than a percentage change, but that Part 2 fee could be driven by a new decision at the state level that the GSA has to comply with, and that's just really an unknown.
How do we explain that to?
Well, on my part, I mean, I know RCRC is arguing that if you prove that you have, water, you shouldn't have to do as much testing, and you shouldn't be subject to having to charge these many fees, but the state isn't very, their ears aren't very open to that so far. But I mean, we're trying to lower it, we're not trying to raise it.
Right.
That's rural counties, California.
Okay.
Any questions or comments by board members? Is this presentation done? Not quite? Keep going.
Almost. I think this is my last slide.
All right.
And this is just to let the public know that there will be a corrections process. So it is possible that when we create the database, we might have some incorrect information upon which we are calculating the fee. And if that is the case, then the parcel owner can fill out a corrections form, which will be on, well, there already is a process on the GSA's website. So they can submit that form, and the Part 2 fee. So remember, Part 1 fee, there wouldn't be an adjustment for that. Everyone's treated the same way, it's just a per parcel fee. But if the Part 2 fees are based on incorrect data, then there would be an adjustment. It wouldn't be immediate, it would be adjusted on the next year's property tax bill. And so, and if there is a Part 2 fee that needs to be corrected for what we call a hand bill, so if the GSA has to directly invoice, let's say, state of California, and the state comes back and says, no, you got that data is incorrect, there's a correction, there needs to be a policy that's developed for how to refund or correct, may not be a refund, but how to correct for those hand-billed customers. So yeah, I think, but yeah, that's the end.
Questions by board members?
Yeah, I have a question, it's probably for staff. So let's say hypothetically, which it would never happen, it's not a matter of if it will ever happen, but it will happen, where we lose a part of the grant funding that we rely so heavily on. And so let's say there is that gap in funding. Would that be a reason to increase a fee?
If there's a gap, a gap in funding, let's say for a project, a specific project that is kind of separate from Sigma compliance, then this board would have to pass it would probably fall under the Proposition 218 fee process, not necessarily a Sigma compliance process, unless it was for something that was required as part of the GSP.
Right.
So, and then that's a potential where an increase in fee would occur. I think where this basin is at in terms of the monitoring that you have approved and the things that have been installed as part of this current grant funding, I think it puts you in a pretty good place where you won't have to pursue. We could fill data gaps based on additional grant funding that is available, but I don't think it is something that you would have to do in order to maintain sustainability. I think we've positioned ourselves pretty well for ongoing monitoring and filling the data gaps. Ryan's not here, but I think we've done a pretty good job of that and addressing those things in the periodic evaluation and any amendments to the GSP. So I think you're looking pretty good there, but any projects for the fun of it would have to increase fees if it's something that this board really wanted to pursue. But I think with the Prop 4 funding that's coming, the types of projects that would be implemented or constructed, I think that would be where we would, grant funding would be the sources of those types of things. And if we didn't get it, then I think you're in a good position to just maintain and stay the course. And to Supervisor Conley's point, like this basin, we don't have a significant groundwater problem here, a significant deficit. It could be in the math a little bit. So I think the recharge, good wet years, recharge, and if we could implement some of the regional conjunctive use, I think we're looking pretty good. And I think those kind of multi-benefit projects like the regional conjunctive use combined with the flooding and drainage are are prime for funding in the future.
So what you're saying is if we lost grant funding for a project and we wanted everybody to pay for it, we'd go to an election. It would be a 217.
Like a 218.
218.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right. So the public would weigh in at that point. All right. Any other?
I think
Yeah, I have
too,
a
though,
question.
it sort of depends on what it is that you need to fund. So it could be something that really is, if it's still an investigative type of study, not an infrastructure project, you could raise the level of this regulatory fee to cover that cost.
You got questions or comments, Phil?
Yeah, I have a question. I think I brought it up a couple of months ago and we were talking about this. But the analysis I have of the new fee study is domestic, because I'm the domestic representative. They would use 4.1% of the groundwater that's pumped, and they will be paying 32.8% of the cost. And so, and I'm not sure how this compares to the old one, but I'm just wondering what kind of rationale we have for domestic versus ag and how much they pay. And according to this analysis I have, agriculture pays $8.22 per acre foot pumped, and domestic pays $93 per acre foot pumped. And I understand that there's way more domestic users than there are ag users. Well, it says here that there are parcels of 7,000 domestic, 4,800 ag, but ag has more acreage. So anyway, it's just, I would need to have the rationale to explain that. And then I don't have it with me, the old fee compared to the new fee on what the difference is there. But I thought we were going to try to make it a little bit more equitable, but it seems like it might be going the other way. And
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'd like to respond. So the reason why you see that difference in how much is being pumped by the domestic and how much they're paying of the total fee revenue, that is because we wanted to identify what are the costs, the functions, and who are the beneficiaries. And when we look at the different functions and we look at the Part 1 functions and the Part 2 functions that the agency provides, what the activities that they're doing, in that Part 1, everybody's getting the same benefit because every parcel is in the subbasin and it's covered by having a local GSA, so the state does not have to step in. So because that is of equal benefit to all of the parcels in the subbasin, that's why those costs are divided and you get that parcel fee. So you have a lot of small parcels that have a domestic service that don't use much water in comparison to the agricultural parcels, but they're still receiving that same benefit from those Part 1 generated costs. So I don't know if I explained that really well, but that is the primary reason why you'll have domestic users paying for what looks like a large portion of the total fee being collected when they're using only 4 to 5% of the total groundwater in the subbasin.
Let me try this.
Okay.
So you're saying that if I have a quarter acre lot, under state law, I still have to be part of a GSA that still has to produce all this paperwork and all these reports. And so therefore, my share of it is more for pushing paper around not consumption. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. That is correct. Yes.
It's not based on consumption, it's based on the fact, on the Part A, but the Part B, where we had it a little different before, we're trying to say if you irrigate, you pay a much higher price than anybody, really, because you pay per acre. Is that correct, then?
That's correct.
Because you have a more direct benefit for us saving groundwater. It's
Yes.
just so you know, it's just all a rational way to tax people. I'm sorry, it's called a fee. But thank you. I'm glad I clarified that for you.
Yeah, good.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it does make sense, yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, it just has to be, when you explain it, it has to be understandable.
Yeah, I get it.
Because on paper, it doesn't look like it's rational.
Any other questions? Or I hear moaning and groaning. Any other questions by board members? Come on, Kyle, you've been silent.
No, this is no fun for anybody, and we've been trying to figure out the best way to work through this, and there is no good way, but unfortunately, going through the process that we did originally, it kind of made a few things clear, and there were some issues with that initial structure, and like Cindy, I think there is a better balance of things being proportional to benefit received with this in terms of count for different land use types. And I don't know, it's not for a lack of trying, I can promise you that. This is not fun for anyone, so anyways.
So I've been asked to break this down to the least common denominator where, you know, the average citizen could wrap their head around this. And so here's my take. Prior to, we weren't getting charged. Folks could use groundwater whenever they so pleased, right? But the land was sinking. There was no statewide rules, and the drought really made the problem severe, right? So we had to put some guidelines in place, right?
For other parts
And this is why we're at with rates and fees.
So how much do you pay per year? Do you know?
According to this, it's not much. It's not a good time to be a farmer. I'm glad I'm where I'm at. But,
Okay.
you know, it's only going one way, and it's up.
Could you you want to come talk to the podium? Okay. We'll take public
How much
comment on
land
this since
is
you
it?
asked the question.
Well, I'm just curious. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with TID, and their base, which is on a 5-year payment plan that's rising now, my base for I use a drop of water is $46. You know, and fortunately, it's not a lot. My average, it's not summertime, I'm paying like $48 a month. But then property taxes, yeah, it was like $1.90 or something. It's not going to make me or break me. But, you know, I don't know why they don't go in the fee schedule or the fee range of gallons used. I mean, again, farmers are feeding America, and I know that they need a break somewhere on their water bill. But if it's, you know, coming from, we got this beautiful lake here and everything else considered, we're surrounded by water. And I don't think we're making a lot of mistakes on misuse around here. But we're like herded in like a bunch of cattle, and it's like, we're going to do this thing whether you like it or not. And so you got to pay for the administration. I got 1 toilet, 2 sinks, and a shower. You know, I'm a drop in the bucket, but everybody's got to pay for everything. What makes things work. So, yeah, I had another question. Could I get a handout, or I don't know the parameters of this basin, sub-basin?
We're gonna get with you after the meeting.
All right, I'll stick around.
Because if you're interested, we want you to be educated, and we want your input.
Absolutely.
It's just like one statement you made there, we got this lake right here, but we get very little water out of the lake.
Well, I understand.
You know,
My father worked on the dam in '63 in Orange County, San Diego. That's far-reaching.
So we want you to be educated on it, and there's also you could be a domestic guy up here, or we have a TAC you might want to take part in. We have places you can volunteer and become further educated and bring your point of view forward.
Very good.
And I'm so glad you're here, and
Well,
none of us up here are happy.
I understand.
Right.
I
Especially
understand.
him.
No, because I told you.
Well, this guy might be a farmer.
He's a rancher.
Yeah.
Okay.
He pulls, what do you call it? Pull cow?
Calves, yeah.
Okay.
He
So,
he
yeah.
represents the agricultural interest.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, no, I'll stick around. till
And
you-
Bill's your guy for domestic.
Domestic.
Domestic well users.
All right.
And the overall philosophy that was explained to me at an economic conference that Kyle and I attended was that everybody benefits from groundwater. Everybody benefits from groundwater. That's what they stress.
If we keep it healthy, that's what we're trying to do.
And for the future,
But I
and for
think
your
we
kids
are.
and grandkids. And so everybody needs to be involved, even if somebody's paying $12 a year or $1 a month. It's everybody. I
Everybody
think that's the part
suffers.
one, right? And so it's spread out. It's just the
Well, it's
people
got
who
to
you,
be. It's got to be managed properly too. I mean, you can throw all the money you want at it, and if management's not there, then it's
well,
there's
that's
a lot
what
of that
we're
going on in
supposed to be
California.
doing. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Yeah, and it's an
Correct.
unfunded mandate, so we have to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
But then I like the fact that you said something, Bill, about public vote incorporated into. I mean, you guys don't have the last word on it every time, do you? On what goes on here?
If it goes beyond what you're seeing right now, let's say there's let's pick on
Put it
Palermo.
on the
Say
ballot.
Palermo's got a big project going on, and we don't have the grant
think
funding,
so.
and we feel everybody would benefit from that, we would have to go to a 218 where the public would vote, and you'd be a member of this, you could go, no, I don't think it's worth it, we don't want to do it. I don't see that happening. I really don't, but that's the truth. It would be a public vote.
Yeah.
And these projects that you're hearing about are all grant funded. Yeah, we're all taxpayers, but the way I look at it, I'd rather get the money here than Fresno or someplace else, so we go after the grants,
Go there first before you go to the.
Absolutely, anything. And
GP.
we've assisted TID. Can you explain a couple of things we've done with TID so far?
So as part of this grant funding, which the GSA got $5.5 million, I think about 1.2 was for the Thermalito Water and Sewer District's water treatment plant expansion. So
that kept your rates down, so we have benefited you. You just were never made aware of it.
Right.
In a sense.
Right.
That'd been 1.2 million they'd had to pass on to you.
The biggest hit I know that TID customers experienced, including myself, is when they incorporated into the sewer department, running through the city of Oroville's plant.
We need to
Right.
talk offline.
'Cause
there's
That's a whole nother deal.
Yeah, that's a whole nother deal, and I'd really like to talk to you about that. I would be improper for me to bring it up.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on this matter? Close public comment. Wishes of the board. Oh, this is for information. You're going to
no,
bring it back.
we do have to set the public hearing date for May 21st.
Okay, somebody make that motion.
So moved.
And Kyle seconds. So, any discussion on that? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody
Court
opposed?
adjourned.
Thank you.
I got a meeting at 4.
Oh, at least you didn't leave before the fee hearing. I'd have really been on you.
Oh, no, I would not. have
Okay,
missed
reports and correspondence. We're at 6.1. GSA Program Manager not here today. Do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything to report except Dylan will be back the next meeting.
Okay, now you can make public comment on anything not on the agenda that you'd like to talk about. We can listen to you, but we cannot take action as it was not agendized. I'm seeing nothing. Do you want to speak on any other thing not on the agenda?
I could go on forever. I'm just going to temper my first meeting here.
Thanks for being here. Okay, close public comment. We're going to be adjourned. We'll be back here April 16th, 2026.